Viktor Gyökeres made his Arsenal home debut in a 3-2 loss against Villarreal, where we finally got to see the Swedish player play considerable minutes. Now in this video we're going to talk about everything he did well and what we learned from his debut, and how Arsenal can get the best out of him and improve in the future. So let's get into it. Now overall there was a lot of problems in the game, I think, with how Arsenal played, but more importantly of how we defended. I don't think we were that bad going forward like some people will make out to be, and that is included with Viktor Gyökeres. I think he actually had a pretty decent debut in all things considered, and although the team were definitely not climatised with playing with a proper number 9 like Gyökeres himself, there is ways that he did do good things, and we can definitely get more out of him in big games, and I think he is going to be a very effective player for Arsenal in the Premier League. Now, the first thing to explain in this game is that Viktor Gyökeres was being used as a facilitator at the start and not as a pure number 9 like he should be. He was being more played as someone like Havertz. Now, yet again, Arsenal were playing away from the block and not inside the block in order to progress the ball. We saw Ethan picking up deeper positions on the wide areas to sort of progress and take this player one-on-one in these sort of areas where we could create chances. This was playing players out of positions for people like Norgard, who could get high turnovers and play the ball through to Gyökeres. Now the problem is a lot of our team are not acclimatized to playing quick balls over into behind channels. White does it sometimes, Saka will do it as well, but these players aren't on the ball that much compared to some of the midfielders who have a lot of involvement in the game. Now the first problem we had in this game, that Viktor Gyökeres was making all these great runs in behind this way, but in the end had to keep coming this way to receive the ball. There's one actually early on where Norgard does brilliantly well to win the ball back in midfield, and he should play the ball in behind. Gyökeres is looking over his shoulder, waiting for it, and then as Gyökeres is turning back behind, the ball has already been drilled into his feet, which he struggles to control, and then he wins a free kick by getting fouled in the back. Now this isn't the only time this happened in the game. There was a few times where Gyökeres would make brilliant runs down the left half channel and he wouldn't be played in for that one-on-one as a winger, and yet we would work the ball differently and play the ball into Gyökeres when there's 4 players around him, where he gets tackled, can't have much time on the ball and instantly loses it, which is just not how you play with him. Now that being said, there was ways that Arsenal got around this and started to adapt to this to get Gyökeres into positions he could play. In the first half specifically, we were using Martinelli a lot more inside and Saka. This was meaning that they were both getting overlaps by people like White and Lewis Skelly, and even Kivior did it at some points as well. And what we kept consistently seeing was Martinelli making this run into the channel while Gyökeres was going here, and they were sort of crisscrossing each other to get in behind. This allowed moments for Martinelli to take defenders away for him and allow Gyökeres to run into this space down this side. There is actually one chance where Marino receives the ball in this area and he puts the ball through to Gyökeres, who goes down the wing, actually ends up cutting the ball back, and yet again we have both our players in the middle making the same run, which is something that simply has to change, and this is not Gyökeres' fault. Now after we did this a few times, Arsenal started to get a lot more comfortable of giving the ball to Gyökeres in these positions, these out wide areas where he could finally take players one-on-one. Now Gyökeres, what he was doing was, when we were keeping their team very much penned in and very narrow with Saka and yet again Martinelli being these more central areas here, which was really helping, especially back post, Gyökeres was finally being able to take players on where he wanted to go one-on-one. Now I said in the past I'm not necessarily sure about his one-on-one level within the Premier League, but in this game I was convinced that I do think he will still be good enough. There was many times that he was down this wing and he cuts inside and tries to get a shot away or create for the team. He's a player that wants to have instant impact and is not someone that's going to wait around taking ages on the ball. He cuts in, he has a shot, it may get blocked, but at least he's trying something. And the big run that everyone is talking about is where he receives the ball on this channel. Martinelli gives him that space, he cuts inside, beefing one player out of the way, and then runs past the other one, getting to the byline to cut the ball in. Yet again, there's no one there for that cutback. You would think that's more of an Odegaard or Rice role, who weren't playing at this point, and also you have to consider that the players are just not used to it. They will get more understanding of him putting the ball back a lot more for the team. Now I will say in the first half, the one thing that really annoyed me about how we were playing, not only was the fact we weren't feeding Gyökeres when we should have been, was the fact that we were just doing the wrong type of balls yet again for this player. Now, I don't think Gyökeres is bad in the air now, looking at more training footage and seeing him against more Prem players. I think he will be fine and can score headers, but it's still not his favourite thing. And what I really hated was every time we kind of got the ball to Saka in these areas, the overlap would be onto White, which he barely does, and I still think we need to sort of have a decision-making plan there where he needs to do it a lot more. But even then, when Saka got to the byline and was able to get this cross in, he kept lofting it to someone like Gyökeres instead of placing it on the floor. The problem with this is that we saw multiple times in the game that he's trying to figure out his feet, trying to figure out him in the air, and it's just not a comfortable situation. The space has always been there for cutbacks, which Gyökeres has done multiple times. He cut the ball back on the floor, so we just need to do the same for him. So I'm hoping that will be something that adjusted and is learned over time, which should just get better. Now, on the ball, I do want to say in the second half, he really struggled to get a touch on the ball in the first 10 minutes. And then in 5 minutes, he came into life, finally getting any sort of sniff within this game. This whole thing started when the ball bounced to him in the middle of the park. He runs brilliantly to get the ball. He receives the ball and then starts running at the Villarreal defenders. This instantly makes him go past one player. He drags out the 2 defenders in front of him and then tries to put the ball through to Saka, which ends up not working. But the fact that he is so willing to complete a quick action shows that. Straight away after this, he makes this run into this right half channel this time, showing his variance of running, and Marino finally slips him through, which he gets a good shot. It goes straight at the keeper, but the power is there, and that's more with what Gyökeres wants and we need from a striker. Now, something I noticed in this game from a pressing standpoint was that Gyökeres, I don't think pressed poorly, but there were certain times that he maybe was a little bit off it or didn't understand where he had to be. There's a few times where he got played with in the middle of the park and he's kind of just chasing the ball, which we have said he likes to do, but also he showed a lot of aggression. He had to push up on that goalkeeper, 2 centre backs, and do a lot of that heavy lifting in that midfield, which is definitely going to be an adaptation that he learned to, because we know what his pressing style is like. Now, we did still win the ball back quite a few times high up on the pitch, and that was down to Gyökeres being part of the squad, being very aggressive and suddenly just approaching people, which I think catches them off guard, and this kept making us win the ball in these areas, which we still did not take. There was a few ones where Gyökeres clearly wanted to take it in his stride, but someone took it away from him, and then would give the ball to people like Marino, people like Miles, who just simply take a lot more longer on the ball to complete an action, and this slowed down the attack yet again and made Gyökeres not be effective where you really want him. We put the ball out wide and cross the ball in. That is not where I want Gyökeres having his best chances. There's a few times as well where I think this needs to be his bread and butter, and we need to give him the ability to shoot. Stop passing it around, stop messing around with the ball, let Gyökeres have these sort of attacks as soon as we win the ball back, because he will just shoot early, and sometimes I think that is something us have been missing. We need more direct players, which is a reason why Gyökeres has joined the club. And I will say from different standpoints, there was some real negativities, I think, when he received the ball inside the pockets, but I do think he received the ball under a lot of pressure. And there was a few times where I just don't think it was the right idea to give him the ball. He lost the ball quite easily from a physical challenge in behind, and he is going to be like that. He is a physical player, but he's not going to dominate everyone, and sometimes you need to be accepting of that and not give him the ball in stupid situations. Now, despite that, I still want to go through his stats. In the end, he played 63 minutes, which obviously is the most he has played so far, and he only had 4 out of 7 passes, only had 14 touches in the game, despite 6 of them being in the opposition box and the others all being around it. 2 out of 2 successful dribbles. He had 2 shots in that short amount of touches and still won 3 out of his 4 ground duels, with winning 1 foul and being committed to 1 as well. Something I learned about Gyökeres in this game is that he will make things happen without anything really going on a lot of the time, and ultimately there's a lot of times where we had the ball nowhere near him and he still tried to make something work with a run or a physical duel with someone, winning it and getting us up the pitch. And as soon as he did this in the second half, I think specifically, the team started to get more lifted. Unfortunately, we brought him off around this sort of time, so we couldn't really see the full effects of it. But every single time that Gyökeres has some good actions, and most of the actions we spoke about in this video all happened with a couple of minutes within each other. There's 20 or 30 minutes where he doesn't touch the ball at all, and there's about 10 minutes where it's all him, and I think that we need to really highlight them if we want to get the best out of him in the future. Now, I will will say a lot of the other players around him need to be more confident, and I think that's why his performance wasn't the best it can be. He is a natural number 9. He needs to be served and needs to at least get the ball in these wider areas when he asks for it, and not be someone that is always going to be helping other players and running in behind. There's a few times we even saw Mourinho, when he moved up front, come into these deeper areas and help with the team, which is just something that he is not going to do. He needs to stay near them forward areas and try and get shots away. Overall, in the comments, let me know what you guys thought about his debut and what you learned from it. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.